Nobody has the ability to write his or her name. Nobody here began writing his name without learning the alphabet. The alphabet is just 26 characters or letters, and then it's kind of easy, but it is the rudiment of you knowing how to read and write. So the same way applies to testing. The first rudiment of testing is not automation, it is critical thinking.
You test early, you catch bugs early, you save the organization money. But when all that you do is, okay, I'm a tester, I'm QA, what I have to do is execute test. That is very basic.
I had a commercial last time. I was having a teaching and I was asking them, if you come into your bank and you realize that 10 has been added to your account, would the ATM pay you that money? Yes, they will pay you because that's data.
Yeah.
The bank protect more of our data than the actual money.
Hello everyone, welcome to Building Bytes, where we tell relevant stories about Ghana's tech ecosystem to fuel innovation and drive the growth of our digital economy. This is a show brought to you by Haptal Academy. As you can see, it's a new set, very splendid one. Thanks to the Haptal Academy team. Today, we're talking about a very interesting topic, which is a very key part of software development, and it has to do with QA and software testing. So we're looking at the current state of the QA industry in Ghana. But before we do that, we've been joined by Korkor and Ikenna. They will introduce themselves later on. But before we do that, let's get into what happened in tech. Poga will take us through that.
So what happened in tech this week? The top one, data value of data bundle go up. The price remains the same, but value go up. There's been some arguments about it, but yeah, the minister on Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday the 10th announced that data bundle going up in value, but the price remained the same. And there was also some packages that have been restored, and the value of those packages have gone up. I don't know what you people think about it, how you react.
I know usually you ask that, but I wanted to ask. What do you think?
For me, I think it's a good thing. I'm just hoping July 1st would come so that we start to
experience
the benefits and experience how it goes. People have their opinion, so maybe if July 1st come, we'd see what happens if we get a bundle.
For me, I think it's a good thing, and I also think we're in a free market, right? The minister can't necessarily tell the telcos to reduce their prices. But I also think, as the people wanted the prices to go now, not necessarily the value increasing. So we are still spending the same thing, right? We are still the price. We are still trying spending the same thing.
And the minister was advocating for you. I don't think I wouldn't know. I wasn't there, but I don't think they forced anybody to, do this change. But I think as a minister, he was advocating. So I think, he was advocating for the consumer. So hopefully, July 1st gets a better.
If this is like a first phase of maybe a longer strategy, it makes a lot of sense. But kudos to him. He's done fantastic.
Yeah, they've been
he's worked the talk.
Twitter.
He's worked the talk.
What's that name? Techie or something?
Yeah, Techie.
That guy's be pressing him on Twitter. So he's very well. Do you have any reaction to it?
Okay, so our concern is not just the increase in value. We're also concerned about the rate at which the bandwidth would go. Are we going to have more of the throttling such that we have data going more faster than it used to be, even though we have the value increase? So that's what I think we should pay attention to. And I also believe that the NCA will pay attention as well to know, and if possible, sanction any of the telcos if they end up throttling the bandwidth, instead of having to give us the actual value of the data. So I'm still kind of we're just expecting and hoping that it's not what we are thinking, and these things can be a bit dicey, and we don't want to believe it's a facade. So I'm just hoping that happens.
Yeah. In terms of throttling, I think the minister, that's why the way he talked about the quality of the network. I think he mentioned in the past that the telcos should improve their network or they'll face action. Although I think the minister was not NCA should. But I think there was a whole map showing the quality of network. He brought up, I think he was just focusing on Amasaman and how certain places were bad. I believe NCA monitors this and pass the information to the minister. So hopefully the quality of the network will improve, and there won't be any, tricks to rob us of, this increase in value. Korkor, do you have any reaction to it?
So for me, I'll just have to wait for 1st July to see how it goes.
I like that.
Awesome. Okay, so the second item, Mino Health, Darlington Acopoli, makes it to Forbes 30 under 30. That's a good one. I think along with two other Ghanaians, two other females, I think Jackie and one other lady, I've forgotten her name. I think she's a doctor, she's into health.
Khadija Owusu.
Yeah, they make it to Forbes 30 under 30. What's your impression of that? How does it help the ecosystem, tech ecosystem in particular?
Go ahead.
I think it's a good. I don't remember the last time a Ghanaian was on the Forbes list. Probably maybe it was Mikasa's founder, Kelvin. I think that was like the last time a Ghanaian was on the list. So it's refreshing to get a Ghanaian back again, and who is also doing something which is emerging technology, so AI. Like you are part of that conversation. You're not just at the end just using it. Like you are really part of that conversation. I think it's very interesting to have it in there.
What's it? Yes, sir.
I also think that one of the things this does is that it puts us up in the map and it allows us to tell our stories because we understand our problems more. And that shows that we have people who are blacks that can do very great things, especially here in Ghana. If you pay attention to the story, you realize that it was said that all these things was done in his room in Legon.
Yeah.
And that means that even as a student, he had access to doing great things. So if we have very young students who could do great things, even in their dormitories, that means in the industry in Ghana, when it comes to tech, we have very great guys who are actually doing something which are very marvelous, but perhaps we've not paid attention to allow them share their stories as well. So I think it also prompts us to look more into the tech and see the great guys there who are doing great things, and once in a while allow them tell their stories. They will be amazed with the kind of things that is happening in Ghana, especially in the tech system. I think that's what I think about that.
Awesome. Korkor, what's your opinion?
For me, when I heard, I was glad that at least they are women, Jackie and the doctor. I was quite impressed because, it's as Ikenna said, it helps us tell our story. When we are speaking to our girls, girls are not really, they're scared of IT, the STEM courses. So you can just use them as an example that, okay, look at what your fellow woman has done. It really encourages the young woman. So I think it's a good thing for the ecosystem.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay, so that's all in what's happening in tech. Visit Tech Leaders South Africa. Some more news in tech.
Great. So, thank you. So we are now going to the main conversation. So we are looking at a very critical part of software development. So before mobile apps and web app hit your screen, there's a team of engineers who make sure that whatever is working exactly as it's supposed to work, right? That's when you buy 1 gig data, you're not getting 80 megabytes or whatnot. You're getting exactly a gig. When you're taking a loan for 100 Ghana cedis, you're not getting 99, but you're getting exactly 100 Ghana cedis. And today we are having two leaders from that industry, Korkor on my right, and then Ikenna on my left. I'll let them do justice to their introductions, to introduce themselves, and then we'll get into the conversation. So we'll do ladies first.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Korkor Mensah. I'm the QA manager at eProcess International Ghana, a subsidiary of the Ecobank group, and I'm based in Accra here.
Great. Okay, so my name is Ikenna Okafor, and I am the QA lead for Fido. Fido is a fintech company here in Accra, Ghana, and I happen to be one of those that lead the QA team. So yeah, that's me.
Okay, great. Maybe we'll also introduce ourselves. I'm also Yao. I'm a product development specialist, and
Poga, software developer.
Great. So before we get into the conversation, I know QA has evolved a lot, right? How has that evolution been, especially locally, in the local context? How's that evolution been? Two leaders, who want to go?
I'll go first.
Okay, great.
So when I hear such questions, I always use myself as an example. 7 years ago, when I joined the QA team, first off, I didn't have a computer science background, and I accidentally found myself in QA. Before that, I had been in the organization for over 10 years. I didn't even know there was a testing team. I didn't know anything about testing. So I reached out to, my other colleagues with computer science background to really understand why the gap. And they even told me that for the computer science that they learned in school at the university, they weren't taught about software testing. It wasn't part of the syllabus. So for me, no computer science background, accidentally finding myself it wasn't planned, in the QA team. Looking back from then to now, the demand for QAs has really increased. Because when I joined the team, we were 3. Yes, I was the 4th person. Today, my team, we are about 17, 18.
Wow.
Yes, managing
The Ghanaian
QA.
team.
Yes, the Ghanaian
Wow.
team. So managing QA across 36 countries, testing different applications for the bank.
Okay.
So that demand for QA is increasing, especially in the banking sector, the telecom industry, e-commerce, and it's been driven by that need for secure, reliable, and user-friendly applications that need to be tested. And also, the industry is growing. The industry is building applications for customers to use. They need to be tested because when applications and systems are not well tested, it has implications for both the organization and the user.
The users.
You look at Accra. Accra has now become a growing hub for tech innovation.
True.
So like there are lots of startups coming up. And when there are startups, it gives software developers and QAs that support that is needed. You don't really have to be a QA that came into the industry from a traditional computer science background. These startups are supporting the QA industry. People are learning QA through these startups. They don't have to go to university to learn computer science before they become QA. And also, one last thing I would like to add is the fact that in Ghana, our digital infrastructure is growing. As of 2023, our mobile internet penetration was about 53%, which is a lot. And when that happens, that means there's that need for robust software testing.
Right.
Yeah, you understand. So, the demand for QA has come far. QA in Ghana, it's from where I started from, it has really come far, and we have a long way. We still have a long way to go.
That's interesting. Building. Is it the same at your end?
Yes. So for QA in Ghana, there's been an increment so far. We've seen people embracing QA. It's rare to see people who just went to school to study QA. It's like people say, I went to school, I did computer science, and I was still programming. But for the QA, it is not necessarily the case. You rarely see anyone that went to school and learned software testing as a career path. For me, I stumbled upon software testing because I began as a software developer, and then all of a sudden we built a product which was not wasn't useful in the market because we had bugs that we thought we had fixed ourselves, and we didn't understand the concept of testing from a user's perspective. You only test as a developer and you think it's working because of the buttons you click, and that was what influenced that we had very good product we had, but then it was not used. And then I asked myself, what good is the music if nobody listens to it? What good is the software if nobody uses it? Okay. So I began making researches, and I found myself, and I began making research about how to ensure that softwares are used well. And then I found myself into QA. I began exploring there, and also took courses, and then finally I had to move from software development part to now software testing, where I have the part to pay attention to every single path that comes together to make a software. So it's a process which has evolved so far, and we are seeing people come into that space. And of course, we have communities now that are helping bring people more into software testing. Okay, so For instance, I've been able to work with two communities, software testing communities, and I've led in these capacities. One of them is Testers Quarter. When they came to Ghana here, I helped to organize all their first programs, which had over 60 participants.
Okay.
And so I had to.
We're all testers or like people interested in testing?
More of testers and those who want to be testers. And also I had the opportunity to lead Ministry of Testing as a community manager. And also that also led us to raising a lot of people who are now moving into testing and want to become testers. And also I've partnered with a company called Axolotl, who is doing great things. As I talk to you now, they are having a scholarship which is ongoing for they intend to have up to 500 people trained into software testing this year. So they are making the project. I was in touch with the COO, and he's speaking about having this program come up where we'll have over 500 people who they will train in software testing. That is how big we are, having QA come into that space. So it's something I'm pushing, and I'm very helpful, and I'm happy that we're getting to that space where QA can be known and recognized when it comes to software, tech in Ghana.
That's great. Sounds like there's a lot happened. Maybe let's step back a bit. So I know not everyone listening would be working in the software industry, right? So what's QA? And then like what's it like? Explain it to us like we are five. Like explain to us like we are five. What's it? And maybe after doing that, let's talk more about what are some of the frameworks and what are some of the tools that is being used in the ecosystem we have here in Ghana.
Okay. So software testing or QA, as many people call it, there's been these buzzwords going off to QA, software testing. QA is not software testing. But let me just put it down here as a layman. I'll call it software testing, which is for instance, let's say testing. What is testing or software testing? Software testing is an art. You see, people think software testing is just clicking buttons. Oh, it's working, pass, or green, but they are all green. Our command is green, so we can go. Our pipeline is green now. Software testing is an art. You must learn it. It's an art. Just like you do, do science the way you do your art in school. You must learn about it. You must understand it. You must believe it. So software testing first is an art. Okay, that it helps us evaluate the product by learning about the product via exploratory, experiencing, and experimenting the product. So that when we do these things, we're able to find the things that threatens the value of the system. For instance, I can't talk about something I have not experienced. So testing means that you're coming to learn about a product, but for you to learn about that product, you must evaluate it by experiencing it, by exploring the product, by experimenting with it. Why? The end goal of testing is to do one thing, to find issues that threatens the value of the product. So whilst the developers are building products to go out there, we are testing softwares to ensure that we're able to find the things that threatens the value, like bugs, like defects, like things that does not work or match according to what we've planned in our plans. So software testing is very, very important when it comes to that. So the fact that you have an act of learning the product by evaluating it and knowing how to use it. Because, for instance, everybody knows that a bank app must take a click. When you want to log in, just either use your fingerprint, and then when you want to make a transaction, you can just click one button and you submit, right? What if a child takes your bank account, bank app, and then you log in and then you do something? Your child clicks the button multiple times and is able to transfer more money. That's a bug. So as a QA person, you must try to explore a particular app, try several ways that users can use it, such that you're able to find what are these things that can threaten the value of this product. So that when it's been out there, people can have the confidence to use our products. Nobody wants to use an app that is broken. Nobody wants to use a bank app that does not work well, or a fintech app that is not working well. So software testing helps to build that trust that people can use our applications and still have the trust to say it is working well, and I can value and put that trust in this application that my money is safe with them.
Explained it. So what are some of the tools and maybe frameworks that are widely used in our ecosystem by QA engineers and testers as well?
Okay, so for the tools and framework for a QA engineer to really be good at his job, he needs to be fluent with testing tools. So I'll go with the automation tools, Selenium and Cypress, which is commonly used for automatic web testing.
Okay.
And Selenium especially is very flexible with cross-browser testing and programming languages. So it's not so rigid. So it's really easy for people to use. And the next one I'll touch base on, for a QA engineer to be really good, I mean, with frameworks and tools, obviously the QA engineer needs to know about test management and reporting. And there are tools to help with that, right? We have Jira, we have TestRail. These tools help with, for us in eProcess Ecobank, we have our in-house test management system.
Something you guys built in.
Yes.
Wow.
So it's basically like, it works along the lines of Jira, but we built it in-house, right? So it's used to manage test cases, track test execution schedules, and also we are able to generate test reports after test execution. The next bit is the CI/CD integration with DevOps, right? So whilst development is ongoing, testing is done alongside on every build. So you don't wait till the product or the application has been
entirely
yes, because
ready.
I mean, like, that takes us to that shift left concept. We try to test early enough. When you test early, you save the organization money. You're able to catch defects early. So I mean, our time is not wasted. So that is like best practice that we try to use.
Employ.
So basically, these are the frameworks and tools that a QA engineer can.
So at what point do you guys do manual? At what point do you automate tests? I guess in these days we have AI moving around.
The concept of testing is first off critical thinking.
Yeah.
You cannot automate what you've not tested, and the word manual is something that we find a bit dicey in our field, but then it's something that is the bougie what people use now, manual testing and automation testing. The fact is that nobody or no child can write his name if the child has not learned the alphabet. Okay? Nobody has the ability to write his or her name. Nobody here began writing his name without learning the alphabet. The alphabet is just 26 characters or letters, and then it's kind of easy, but it's the rudiment of you knowing how to read and write. So the same way applies to testing. The first rudiment of testing is not automation, it is critical thinking.
Okay.
You must learn to think out of the box. You must learn to question things. You must learn to understand what you're doing. You must learn to understand your product. If I tell you, how do you use WhatsApp? You can tell me, if I call you and say, yo, I want to send a voice note on WhatsApp, how do you go about it? I don't think you need a manual to tell me that. Because you've used that over
second
and over
nature.
time. Absolutely. So as a tester, you must understand your product so much so that if I wake you up from sleep and say, hey, Ikenna, this product is built, I tried doing this, how do I go about it? I can tell you where to go to and what to click at. That is what testing is. That you know your product so well that you're able to give answers and to understand what happens in your product. So, and that requires critical thinking and analysis. So now the question becomes, what do we test and when do we automate? People say automation. The question becomes, what are you automating? You cannot automate what you've not tested. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons why we automate is because we want to reduce repetition. But automation is not the core thing. Automation is not the epicenter of testing. So that is why I don't want us to glamour over automation. Automation is not the core thing when it comes to testing. People must learn to test with their brains. Testing is first human before automation. So you need to understand, what are you testing? Are you going to test? Are you going to automate because of something you want to avoid repetition on? That's the first thing. And second thing, when you look at that, you cannot automate what you've not tested effectively. So you know that this particular product or this particular flow has to be done always, so you can automate that. So basically, automation is like you checking. Oh, check this flow is always this way. You're checking, but you're not actually going fully into testing other scenarios because you're limited. It's just a static thing to do. But how about these other scenarios? Do you pay attention to them? Let me tell you something. How do you automate whereby I open a Building Bytes app and I see MTL logo? How do you automate that?
I don't understand that question.
So I can automate login flow. I click on login button there. That's fine. That's static. But I cannot automate the fact whereby I click and I see Building Bytes. I click on the app and I see MTL logo. It is very simple to fix. But if you don't test it correctly or you say manually and you automate it, you will miss it. Because after you say click, it clicks and a screen appears.
It doesn't tell you what
That's a screen, but it doesn't tell you what it tells. That is why I tell people take your time to understand the rudiments of testing, the foundations of testing, before you think about what to automate. So there is a place of understanding first off that you cannot automate what is normally tested. And testing is the epicenter of testing is the core rudiments of it and not automation. So you must know what to test and when to test.
Okay. So from what I get in, testing is like a very crucial part. It's also like helping building trust with the product.
Absolutely.
So if a marketer is going out there to talk about the product, they are confident because it has been tested, right? Can you guys give us an example of some of the bugs, real life bugs you guys have seen and how you guys went about it in testing from your work experiences as well?
So,
of course, the ones you can share that will put you in trouble.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
okay, so I'll give 4 examples, right? Very big examples before we come home. So, in 2012, there was a company in the US called Knight Capital.
Okay.
And there was a glitch on the New York Stock Exchange, right? You know, so what happened was, so a test data was it was activated in production. It wasn't supposed to be so. It caused a glitch, and that company lost $440 million in 45 minutes.
Wow.
It nearly collapsed the company because of that software glitch on the New York Stock Exchange. It nearly collapsed that company. So it brings, the fact that something small, something that we think and like it's small, like, oh, okay, was it tested? It can actually collapse.
Yeah, true.
It can shake a financial institution.
True.
And, looking at the reputational damage and the financial losses, other company, Starbucks, I love coffee so much. So, I follow stories on Starbucks. And I found out that in 2015, Starbucks also lost $3 million in 3 hours because their POS had an outage due to a normal daily refresh. It failed. And, when you go to Starbucks, there's usually morning rush hour, there's a long queue, and POS is not working. You tap your card, it's not working. What happens? The company is forced to give away free coffee, and they were forced to close down early. About 60 stores, right, across the US and Canada lost $3 million in 3 hours. So this is like the implication of not testing well, or the software bug causing financial loss and reputational damage. Now, what about the serious ones, like people losing their lives? So there's this common example in the software community about this radiation machine, Tera 25, used for radiation therapy. So, this for cancer patients, right? So at that particular time, the dose that the radiation dose that the machine gave to 6 of the patients, they got 100 times more of the intended dose, and they died.
Wow.
Just recently, 2019, we all heard the news. Ethiopian Airlines 302, 346 passengers died because of a glitch in software, which the pilots were not able to override. So we come locally. If I don't do my job well, I work in the banking sector, a very highly regulated sector. Imagine I don't do my job well, and Bank of Ghana brought e-levy, which is regulatory. Okay, we need to implement it. We don't test it well. Bank of Ghana says deduct 1.5%, then customers start getting 2.5 deductions. Meanwhile, other banks got it right. You can just imagine the reputational damage for Ecobank.
True.
And the cost it will take us for us to fix, retest, and ensure that is done well.
Mm-hmm.
So our jobs are like the kind of job that we do is very critical.
Essential.
It can cause reputational damage. The
course.
organization will lose lots of money, and the worst bit is people losing their
Yeah,
lives.
like, yeah. I think before this, I was only thinking about software testing in the digital form, but with the cancer example, so actually like hardware also has to be.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. Any samples from your end?
Korkor has mentioned few things, which few examples, and we both work in the we work in the financial sector, so it could be similar. Then I was asking, I had a conversation last time. I was having a teaching, and I was asking them, if you come into your bank and you realize that 10 has been added to your account, would the ATM pay you that money? Yes, they will pay you because that's data.
Yeah.
The bank we protect more of our data than the actual money, because at the end, whatever the ATM is paying you is what is your bank account, not what you actually have physically. So that is why we do as much as possible to protect the data that comes into us. So our fixation is not in the money, but it's in the data. So we do as much as possible to protect the data, and that is where we come in now. For instance, if you're going through some verification process and you're called Yao, another person is called Yao, and I didn't verify your names very well. You're called Yao Owusu, he's called Yao Owisi, or Owisi or Owisi or something. And it's almost similar. And then you're doing a KYC verification, and he uses a picture of you, a static picture, and does his verification and passes. And I pay money to him, and he uses your number. And I call you and say, you're owing me. How would you feel about it? So you see, it's very technical. It's very dicey, and people are fraudulent. So you must try as much as possible to also think ahead, not just for the reputation of the company, but also for the fraudsters who are coming in to find a way to glitch your system.
Yeah.
So it is in both sides, because in one other hand, you are a user advocating for them.
Yeah.
In the other hand, you're a security person protecting your company. So we are actually, that is why you see, it is one tester, or is a tester that would understand APIs very well. He would understand the front end very well. He would understand the database very well at the back end. But the back end focuses only on the back end side. When we have team estimation meetings, the back end talks about their stuff, the mobile talks about their stuff, but the QA talks about
everybody's stuff.
Because we need to understand how the API communicates with the mobile, how the data calls that they are functions, how are we processing this data, what about the risk agent. So all these things, it sits on us. Because if I don't understand the API connection, I will test wrongly. If I don't understand the mobile, I would accept something wrongly. So that is why, as a tester, we pay attention to details. One of the greatest skills you can have is to pay attention to details. Because greatness is details. For you to be great in your things, in your dealings, you must pay attention to details. If not, you have issues with your system. And of course, like Korkor says, there are implications. And of course, sometimes there are legal implications, not just only normal implications of revenue losses, but there can also be legal implications on that.
Legal implications,
of course, on that side too.
That's interesting. That's very, very interesting. It's almost like you guys sit in the center of almost everybody's business. That's interesting. That's interesting. We want to come in.
Yeah, we'll go on.
Okay, cool. So I noticed you are a quality assurance manager. How's leadership like for people in the testing department and the testing community? Is it easy for you guys to rise up to technical leadership? How is it like locally and from the places you guys work?
So it depends, right? I always say that you have to put yourself out there, unless you don't want to be a leader in the space that you find yourself. But in the testing space that I find myself, I always tell people, if you want to rise in software testing, okay, you have to learn to test. You have to learn to think beyond testing. You see, testing is about quality. You are doing quality assurance. That is what you have been mandated to do. So everything that you do, you need to own quality. You don't go like, okay, so because there's a product owner, quality is his job. No, you need to own it. You need to practice, concepts like CI/CD pipelines, where you do the shift left, as I explained earlier. You test early, you catch bugs early, you save the organization money. But when all that you do is, okay, I'm a tester, I'm QA, what I have to do is execute test. That is very basic. That's why, there's this perception that software testing or QA is just about clicking buttons. We need to rise above that. So when you take ownership of quality, it helps you to grow quickly, because you don't just execute tests. You own quality as a QA. You implement frameworks, CI, as I mentioned, CI/CD, shift left. You ensure testing is done right. Testing is done rigorously. And in the community, people get to know you. There are communities out there, right? Like the Ministry of Testing Ghana. When you participate in community events, there are events you participate, you write blogs for LinkedIn, you attend international conferences, you post pictures on LinkedIn. People will reach out to you for mentorship opportunities, and that's how you grow. You don't just become a tester. There are colleagues that I actually met in the testing team. Normally, naturally, like the natural, okay, I met you, so you should be ahead of me. But today you realize that one is a little bit better than the other because you put yourself out there. So,
challenge yourself.
Yeah.
Great. In your case,
regarding the management of a team and how they can grow, I think I've met very great test engineers in Ghana here, and like Korkor rightfully said, it was just a LinkedIn high that got Korkor and I here today. Just high on LinkedIn because I was just going through, and then we had a conversation. She came for the first. The first conference I had, testers conference, I reached out to her. Hey, I want you to speak at this conference, and she came, and then that was it. The problem I have so far with regards to growth in our industry is that, unlike the Nigerian industry, which is testing, we've not learned to tell our stories. So I know many great guys in the test industries that don't want to talk about it. And what I'm trying to build is, we want to build a community where people can have a voice. And that is growth. I started this community called Test Afrique. It's a software testing community which is collaborating with Ministry of Testing. Because I've realized that we as Africans, especially in the Ghana space, because I've been here for a long time, we don't know how to tell our stories. People define us instead of we define ourselves. We have very great guys, but they are not able to talk about it. It took me time to know who would come for this event. When Korkor said she was not feeling well something about it, I tried to reach out to other people. Nobody was able to come. Because they were not sure of their stories. But they are very great people there. So we need to learn to tell our story. That is growth. That is core personal growth. Until you challenge yourself and tell your stories, you don't know who you're impacting. Else you become redundant in this industry. When you go there, you talk about Dev Congress, we have a few number of guys out there making Ghana proud.
True.
But when you talk about testing, you begin to ask questions, do we have testers?
We have testers.
Well, we have a very great guys which I've met, and they are doing very well in different industries. Where are they? We don't know them. We don't hear them. But we need them. We need to start training the next generation of testers. Some of us are getting old. Some of us are growing into it. Some of us will begin to leave the actual thing of technical testing. We're now doing managerial stuff. How do we groom others to come into that position if you don't come out tell our stories? So I think there's a problem we have whereby I've been trying to encourage my people. Last time I had a women in test conference, and it was a webinar show, roundtable discussion. I pulled one of my girls she's called Emanuela Tete. I made her speak at that event, and someone in London said, I love the way she's talking. I want to be a QA because of what she said. That is growth. So you must challenge yourself. We, especially in the test industries in Ghana here, if you talk about this in Nigeria, we have over thousands of people who are willing to grant interviews just about testing.
Interesting.
But when it comes to Ghana, you have to literally beg them to please talk about what you do. I don't know what the problem is, if it's inferiority complex or we've not come to understand how important we are. And that is why we are here granting this interview, because we want to let them know that
testers are important. We are crucial. We are needed. We are a voice in the industry.
Yeah, true.
So until we come to realize that we would not know how important we are to tell our stories, and we are actually using this platform to ask them to get into that place to grow. Because one of the ways you can grow, or which we know we can grow in the industry, is to tell your stories, no matter how you may look. Tell your stories, be proud of it, be proud of your contributions you make in the industry. You must be heard. Because the more we hear about you, the more we get that access to becoming what you want to become through your stories. So I think one of the ways we can grow is to tell our stories in the industry, and on platforms like this, join communities and become effective.
That's great. And we share in the same philosophy of telling our stories, and we are glad you share in that same philosophy, right? So before we get into what the future looks like for testing locally and also globally, let's talk a lot more about your advocacy work. I mean, you guys have been doing fantastic work in the ecosystem. I think you recently hosted an event. How's that? Did people come around? How's the turnout? And generally, how's the advocacy part going? And after that, probably talk about how. So if I'm in school now and I want to get into testing, how do I do that? If I'm a developer and I want to get into testing, how do I do that? If I'm a designer, I want to get into testing, how do I? I'm a teacher, I want to get into testing, how do I do that?
Let me chip this in
Sure.
once we're talking about team, so that before you go,
Yeah.
so I think we were talking about probably testers not understanding developers, and developers not understanding testers. How do we get to understand each other, so that doesn't seem like testers are giving developers more job to do? It's like they didn't do this well, or go like this. Like, how do we communicate to understand each other, so that it doesn't seem like you're just giving me too much work and this work just ship it out? How do we?
Are you talking from experience?
I mean, it's a shared
Yeah.
experience.
So on Thursday at Fido, we had an event called DevOps 2.0, and I was privileged to be one of the speakers, and I was speaking to a group of young QA engineers and also product managers, and I told them there's what we call quality by design. And Korkor made mention of something called the shift left approach. It is unfair for you to bring me at the end of the product, because I'm limited in my knowledge. And that's what causes my issue with you. The moment you include me in your planning, I know what is expected of you. We are humans. We want to collaborate with you. We are there to make you better. And to be honest with you, when we find bugs, it's not because we are proud to show you, it's because we want to make you better with what you're building. If we understand this, that when I come into the product, when you're still planning it, it helps me know that this is what is expected of you to build. So I'm checking based on what's for building, if it's matching what we discussed. And what are other things you may not have paid attention. I am your helper. The moment you begin to see me as a helper, it makes more sense to you. I also think one of the things we have difficulties is that we've not taught ourselves the beauty of social skills. How do we communicate effectively? At what point do we communicate? Do we have empathy amongst ourselves? If I understand that the tester is there to help me and the developer is there to make the work better, that's the synergy I'm talking about. Because from the beginning of planning, we all know what is required. You have your documents, I have my documents. We are working alongside that. In the shift left approach, I begin drawing my static test plans before you even start building. So, but the time you're done building, I can compare my test cases to what you built. And then look at my edge cases, look at the things you need to pay attention to. And I'll tell you, oh, guy, this thing you need to pay attention to it. So most often what happens is this disconnection in communication, whereby we have the same document. There has been a change in your document that I'm not aware of. And then you give me a new product regarding which differentiates or is different from what I have. So I'm not communicating, this was what we agreed on. But why come you having this? Because this was not communicated to me to change my own document or my settings. So it becomes an issue. One is lack of effective communication that causes this issue. Two is that we've not understood that we are there to collaborate, not to compete ourselves. The third thing is the place whereby we need to have empathy. To build a product is difficult. So if I'm testing, I should also have in mind that it took this guy this amount of time. So when I'm communicating, I'm not communicating with a place of forcefulness. I'm communicating from a place of empathy. Oh, big man, you've built this. How about we correct this? Or, oh, you didn't pay attention to this. The tone of my communication shows how empathic I am towards you.
Sure.
So if I'm able to call you and have this conversation with you, you would gladly accept it. But when I call and I'm speaking from a place of force, you also have every right to report against me because it took you time to do that. So we need to learn that in as much as we are building on technical skills, we need to also help ourselves build on social skills, whereby when you put me on time into the product planning, I'm able to collaborate with you to bring a better outcome. So it's about communication, effective synergy in the team, and social skills. That's how we do that. And then I tell you for a fact, that's how we operate in Fido. And I can tell you, we've never had issue with developers. The times we have issues is a time we call ourselves to take a step backwards. I remember we are collaborating, not fighting our best.
Yeah.
I mean, we are humans. Things may go on, but hey, take a step backwards. What happened? How can we resolve this peacefully? It's a collaboration. I'm here to help you. Because at the end, you're proud of your products. You built it. I helped you make it better. At the end, you're proud of it.
No.
You know, that's the funny thing about it. When they come to say thanks, you do it after voting. We thank the developers, we thank the backend. Who thanks us for what we do? That's honest.
The question, okay, please go.
Just to add to the point Ikenna made on communication and collaboration, you know, there's this thing called confirmation bias, right? So I'm a developer. I'm not a developer. I'm a QA, but I'm for just example purpose. So a developer spends so much time, you know, he does a lot of brain work to build an application. He might be the best developer. He's so sure of what he's built. And I mean, he's good. Everybody says he's good. Then QA comes, reporting defect. For him, he will not take it lightly because, you know,
He's done the best.
He knows he's done his best work and you are criticizing his work. So if you don't communicate with empathy, as Ikenna mentioned, you know, you don't do that collaboration. You don't do critical. You don't critique his work in a positive way. He'll be offended. It's not easy to develop an application.
True.
My 1 year stint in software development, I started developing back pains. Because for me, when I was developing and I encountered a bug, there was no rest for me. I wanted to fix it. And, you know, you can just imagine the frustration. A mother like me, working in a very fast-paced environment, I wake up at night, code for about 4 hours, and you come and tell me that there are bugs. You know, like you criticize my work as if I didn't do a good job. So that constructive criticism is very necessary. And you know, when there's clarity, you're able to collaborate better. If I don't understand your job, your role, you don't understand my job, we'll fight. My role is to find defects and report it. Your role is to fix it. But if that understanding is not there, sometimes, you know, even outside the development team and QA, people think that it's the role of testers to fix defects.
So after finding it, you fix it.
Yes, that's a misconception out there. So you can just imagine, like, that's what people outside, people in management might even think it's your job to fix it. But it's not our job to. Our job is just to find the defect. We report it to the developer. The developer fixes it. We test it to confirm that it is working and it's supposed to work. But that collaboration, that positive collaboration, it needs to happen. You can't go criticizing somebody's work just because you are QA.
No.
You understand? So, like, we really need to do better. And when we have that positive collaboration, the outcome is so positive. The developers, they come thanking us. And we get a lot done within a short time.
I had a friend of mine. He's called Jojo. In my former company, he was very, very brutal. He's a developer, a very serious front-end engineer. He's a senior engineer, and I was testing with him. So I was on his team. I was testing his work, and he's just a Nigerian. In the office, he never liked me. He was so you could see the vendetta there. He was this vendetta like guy,
stressing.
You know, but it was needful. At the time, he had to call our team Sexy because he knows that Charlie, this will not pass. So it also puts him to give his best. We've seen people build shabby code or write shabby codes or of bad codes because they think nobody will critique it or they think nobody will see it or they think to meet timelines. At the end, he comes back to hunt us And I tell you, nobody wants to fix an issue he has passed before, a code or a script he has done writing. Going back to fix the script again is not that funny, you know. But funny enough, he was one of my groomsmen in my wedding.
Well,
We had these issues in the office, but we understood it was just what created. It was collaboration. So that the beauty of what Korkor is saying is that outside the workspace, we can have beers together. We can shake hands and say, "You're my man." But in the space, let's do our work. In empathy, in wisdom, let's talk about, let's collaborate. Even though we have all these one or two things, when we leave the doors of the office, can we drink beer together? Can we shake hands together? Do I need to call, hey, I have this need, can I help? Can you help me? That's what I'm talking about. It shouldn't look like we're having a fight or a personal vendetta we have to fight over in the office and take it outside the office.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we see that happening a lot. That guy is a very bad guy. It's just for the so
You are
I
a
think the
bad
collaboration
guy.
to that too.
Yeah.
I mean, just to add to the confirmation bias angle, I think for developers, you build something, you know how to test it to work. Sometimes you don't think about how do I test it that it doesn't work. So I know exactly you to do X, Y, Z. I don't think about okay, what is this that does this? Because I'm like, it's built to work this way.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
And that is what we are here.
That's your job.
So,
That is what we are
The
here.
edge cases.
Yeah.
so the developer will go like, it was working on my machine.
Yeah.
Working on your machine.
It's been a while ahead now.
Would I test? Would I use your machine for the fruit?
Yeah, sure, I'm not going to use your machine.
Yeah.
You know.
The user is not going to use your
Yeah,
machine.
the user is not coming to use your machine, but it works on your machine.
Yeah.
That's why our job is important.
Great. So I asked a question before Foga came.
Yeah,
in.
that's because you right. So.
I wanted us to I don't know if you can talk about how your teams are set up. How your teams are set up. I don't know. Should we talk about that? Yeah. How your teams are set up.
Teams. Okay, so how are my teams set up? Let me say this. Without controversy, I came into Fido a few years ago, and when I came into Fido, we didn't have a QA team.
Okay.
So I was the first QA engineer they had, and I built the whole team from ground up. That was really what helped me, and I built the team. And today I have a very great and solid team of engineers doing very well.
How many are you guys?
I've raised over 4 engineers working with the
engineers, okay.
and the level of work they do and what they do is very top notch. I am proud to send them for talks to go and talk and represent me because I have poured out a lot of me into them. They know what to do better and they know what to say. When we came in there was no testing, so I had to build myself.
Which year was this?
That was 2023.
Okay.
So 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I had to understand the product first of all. But the thing is, when I came into Fido, I came in listening. I didn't come in speaking.
Okay.
And that's what I tell my people, when you come into a new environment, go in there and listen to what they have.
Yeah. Then.
And I remember when I was being interviewed for the role, and they told me, when you come to the company, what new team will you bring? They didn't tell me there was no QA team. They said, what new team will you bring the company? And I said to him, sir, when I come into your team, I'll come in to listen to what you already have. He said, right there, that's the guy I'm talking about. That's the guy. Because if you don't understand and listen to the culture there, you come in proposing something that you don't know how
That was going to work, yeah.
So I listened to them, listened to what they needs were, and I began to approach the needs. And it was so good that I had to approach it, and my boss had to, initially they won't trust you enough to allow you to make a decision.
True.
But you have to overly prove yourself that you've listened well and you've prepared the plans. I had to prepare monthly reports that this is what we tested, this were the bugs we found, and these are the risk analysis. Sir, your call, should we go live? If we go live, this will happen. So when I kept on doing these stuff, they trusted me enough to say, you know what, this guy, he was solid. Start building the team. I need this. I need one. Then we call, and that's what we have today. I put up before you come in, for your onboarding. Listen first. Know how we work. Our ways of working. How do we work? What do you need? When do we come in? Then they used to say, we are done test. I said, no, I can't test because I don't know what I'm testing. The next time you have this thing, call me to the meeting. Let me understand what is going on. I had to put up this plan. So now in Fido, we have a team estimation meeting where everybody is there. The PMs, the devs, the back end, the QA, we are all in the meeting. Let's talk about the product. What are we building? Everybody is aware of what we are building. Now take up your own user story and criteria. Go and work on it.
Yeah.
So when the product comes, you already know.
Not
You're
to test.
testing with boldness because you know that no, this is wrong. We didn't talk about it. So how did this come about? You can challenge and say, "Hey, chief, we didn't see this. So how comes?" Then we can revert back to PM. PM, what happened in this? Did you change it? Now when, why, how? We talk about that. That is what I'm talking about. So it took us time to build a team. So we have a team of 4, and we have, of course, stand-ups. Stand-ups, we do our stand-ups in the mornings, get to know what's going on, what went on well, what did you do the previous days. And then after every sprint release, we have what we call a Q retrospective. We have a retrospective to know what went on well in the sprint, what can we continue doing, what didn't we do well, what can we correct. Then after that, we have sprint closure meetings to know, okay, what is left, what are the defects we found. So all these are part of things we serve our teams, and of course, we also have a automation team as well. But then I'm focused on the core foundation of it, where we do the mobile test as well, testing with different applications to confirm that things are working well. And then we have finally, of course, at the end of the day, performance test to ensure that we have proper latency report, where that our users are not kind of lagging in the use of the app. What device are they using? How do they use the app? And once in a while, last month we were at the market in Medina to make a user acquisition, and we have to see how users use the application, and they also know the experience. So once in a while, we pull out activity in the market to go see what happens there, and get knowledge of what's happening with your product outside there. So yeah, that's how we do our setup.
That's an interesting and comprehensive setup. How's it at your end? How's your team setup?
So for my organization, we are big on AI and innovation. And as I mentioned earlier, we support testing applications for about 36 countries.
Wow.
So the team is headed by a unit head. He's a female, a very intelligent woman.
Wow.
And under her, we have the QA team. I'm the QA manager. So the whole team, we are about 16, 17, including the head, and I'm the QA manager. I have about 6 people reporting to me. There's a test execution manager who ensures, who does the testing execution, central testing. I mentioned we work with a lot of countries, right? But physically we cannot be there. So some of the testing is done centrally, where we have participants across the countries also participating in the test virtually. So we have a manager who manages test execution and coordination. We have a manager who is heading the test transformation. That is the team that does our automation, all our automation, anything related to automation. And we have the AI ops team. So they are in charge of everything AI innovation. So we are quite big because my organization is
big. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Wow. So let's go back to advocacy now. So how has advocacy been? And at the last event, how was it? How was the turnout? What was the impact? Did you guys realize what you were looking out for?
Yeah. So what we began doing is, we very proud about that. We are still advocating for people to come into testing, software testing, for them to have more knowledge on that. And that is why over the time since this year, every month we've been having our webinars. We bring professionals who come teach and talk about certain topics in the industry for us to join. And there will be like an initiative for women in test, because we want to put more women into the system so they can have a voice in tech. That's the only tool we can also support the ecosystem. And then the event we had not so quite the great numbers, but because it's our first with MOT, and we are beginning to get people knowing that as well. And we also have plans for getting more people into the system. And in as much as our numbers has grown, we've had numbers grow from 800 to 1,000 something in our years of working with them so far. It's been just a few months I joined MOT, and there's been a lot of leadership, there's been a lot of growth in there. So we are still making the noise, and we're still putting out there to make sure that we get people to know about software testing. And we are believing that such platforms here can also help us get that advocacy, because we want to ensure that testing is not just done in the office, or we need to go to schools. I've been to 3 universities now, and I've spoken. I went to Building universities. I went to Advocacy University to speak at the university. I was supposed to go to University of Energy and Mines and Sunyani to speak. But when I talk to students about software testing, they are surprised. They never knew that there was a career as software testing. I spoke so much in Blue Cross that the HOD said, "I need you to come back again," because the kids say, "You know what? I'm going to test it." The question is, what course are you teaching on testing for them?
Yeah.
There is no course. So
How are you
now
preparing them?
is now so they have to now look at how to restructure their schedule or their curriculum to accommodate testing too.
Yeah.
And that's what we are saying. Testing is not a career you just start after school. It must be taught in schools so that both kids and those who are in universities would understand what testing is and begin to pursue that as the career path. Just like you teach programming, you teach PHP, you teach Java, teach software testing from the core, what it is. So that even in the student project, you can have testers in the projects.
True.
Make them in teams. Let them have a team of project one, in a project. You are a tester. Do the testing for them. Write test cases from school. You learn these things. You mustn't wait until they leave the school before you talk about testing. It's ambiguous. It's something that we cannot deal with. So we need to advocate that this thing that we had 10,000 coders, whatever thing was done by the Ministry of Communication.
1 million actually.
1 million coders. You never heard about testers in two.
They are doing data analysis.
There's data analysts. Every time we go for a job, we see data analysts,
Data scientists.
You never see software testing. It's very rare to see that.
Yeah.
We are doing 1 million coders. Nobody talks about software testing. So who's going to test what they're coding? We need them. So if we say let's do 300,000 people for 300,000 testers, 700 coders, it's reasonable. But if you say 1 million coders, who does the testing?
The 1 million, they say is a brand.
But we should actually have testing there so that we have. That is what I'm saying. The government also have to come into the space
From that point
to make it known that software testing is also effective and needed in the industry.
True.
So that's what we're advocating for.
Fantastic. So I'll let you handle. I'm a student. I'm a teacher. I'm a product designer. I'm a developer. I want to get into software testing. How do I go about it?
Yes. Not to catch you, but maybe if you can just suppose it to, your experience coming from a non-technical background into, software qualifications, I think that would help and inspire, the younger people and especially females that don't have a computer science background coming into tech. Yeah. So if you just put
Okay, so even though we are talking about people who don't have computer science background, we shouldn't, there's that gap, right? Even for computer science students who do a 4-year computer science course, there's nothing about software testing in their syllabus.
Sure.
So we need to do that advocacy for academic reforms, where the computer science syllabus at the university includes software testing courses, so that when they come out into the workforce, they're actually prepared. We get computer science graduates coming into our department and they knew nothing about software testing. You have to teach them about the concept of testing. Now back to your question, no computer science background, you want to become a QA or a software tester. So there are platforms, there are QAs who actually self-learned, right? For me, I was lucky to have found myself in the testing department, so I just had to upskill, write certifications, learn on the job. I had the resources available to me. So what about someone who doesn't have such resources, right? There are lots of resources out there. There are free learning platforms, like Udemy has the business that is paid, and there's a free version. You can start from there. Coursera also offers free courses. You can also self-learn. I mean, testing, you can start with manual testing. I always say, before you get into automation, because people who really don't understand the concept of testing, they assume that automation is better than manual testing. I always tell them, get your hands dirty with manual testing. Because when you get your hands dirty with manual testing, it helps you understand the concept of testing. Before you get into automation. What Ikenna said, if you don't understand what you are testing, what are you testing? You cannot automate something that you don't even know how it works. So that's why I say that people have this misconception that testing is just clicking buttons. It is not so, because we have made it so. You understand? So there are resources out there. You can learn it on yourself. There are lots of videos on YouTube that will teach you from scratch. I did it, and here I am. So it's not, out of this world for someone without a computer science background to have the desire to pursue a software testing career. It can be done. I started late in my career. I'm a mother. I'm married. I have 3 young children. I had to actually enroll myself in a coding bootcamp to learn software engineering, because I really wanted to understand software testing, not just the basics, how to write test cases, how to execute the test cases, and you are done. No, I wanted to understand the brain behind, behind the application that has been built, because I'm testing that application. If I don't understand how the application works or the mindset that was built, that built the application, I will not do a very good testing job on that application. So, you should put yourself out there. There are a lot of mentors on LinkedIn. People reach out to me all the time.
Yeah.
Like just to give you an idea what testing is about, just to, give you that desire, because people don't know. And I always say that, for lack of clarity, people don't know. When you have clarity, you realize that something that you thought was so difficult or impossible is actually
close.
Within your reach. So you can reach out to lots of industry experts on LinkedIn. Just send them, a chat to guide you on your journey, whatever testing journey you want to, whether you want to do automation or manual. The resources are out there. Free resources are out there.
Just to add to Paul's, I think I mentioned earlier, Axolotl is a software academy, and also do kind of software testing for companies when they have to assess their product to them. Axolotl is working on. I partner with them with Test Africa. So we are partnering with Test Africa and MOT with Axolotl. We want to organize a scholarship for software testing for Ghanaians or any resident of Ghana, anyone who's Ghana here. We want to teach them, and we're looking at having at least 300 to 500 students for this cohort. Is deemed to start somewhere in August.
Wow.
So we are still putting up structures together. So somewhere in August, we're having a 6 weeks boot camp on software testing. So for those who are not software engineers, who are in different fields, teachers, accountants, marketing, as long as you want to move into tech and you're willing and serious about it, there's an opportunity for you to learn. So I think I will share with you.
Yeah, can someone sign up?
Yes, so when it's ready, we're working on that currently. I was in a meeting with them last week, and they're actually making great progress on that. So by when they're done, I also communicate that to Building Bytes so that you can also share it there. For those that want to move into software testing, they can join the bootcamp. The class is 6 weeks, and 4 weeks. 4 weeks is more of intense testing. Then 2 weeks is more of core practicals, and then we'll give you software tests. And then as we progress, there are also place for internship. There will be also those who do very well in the course of that. Could be also they can have opportunity to also be an intern and also work on real life projects in the course of the bootcamp. So it's coming up somewhere in August. So let's just have it in mind. For those who want to move into software testing, we'll let that be available to them.
That's great. So as we wrap up, this will be the last question. So how do you see software testing, the future of software testing? How does it look like in your own individual point of view? How does it look like? Yes, in our local context and a little bit of the global context as well, but more of the local context. How do you see that?
So for me, I think the QA industry in Ghana, it's really become very competitive. Like when you get in touch with colleagues, outside your people on LinkedIn in Ghana here, you have QA engineers. Okay, they've become very versed with global tools.
Wow.
You see, we are in Ghana here, right? So you have QA engineers, technical global tools like, let's say I mentioned Selenium for automatic web-based testing, JMeter for performance and load testing, Postman for API. So when this happens, so they've learned how to use these tools, and they've learned how to use it in the CI/CD DevOps integration pipeline. So it enables you to collaborate across borders. It opens this kind of skill that Ghanaian QA engineers have gained. It has opened doors to remote work. Because you sit in Ghana, you're able to collaborate with a developer outside Ghana. You're able to collaborate with QA outside Ghana because you're working in the same CI/CD pipeline. You're using DevOps. So for the future of QA in Ghana, we've really come far. We've really come far. QA engineers are writing internationally recognized certification like ISTQB. So you write the certification, you are internationally recognized. It's opening doors for you. People in Ghana here, QAs in Ghana are getting freelance jobs getting gigs in international startups. Meanwhile, they're in Ghana.
In Ghana.
So the competition is out there,
Yeah.
but we are being competitive because if you are not good at what you do, you cannot work internationally.
True.
So you are working on international projects with international companies, but you're working remotely. So, I mean, the only difference is you are not sitting together with your team member, but you are working on the same project. That's how far QA in Ghana we've gotten to. It's become very competitive, and
That's great.
Yeah. So, like correctly said, we have people who are here who are working in companies outside the country, and they are exposed to so many good tools.
Yeah.
And to see how good it can be, a few years ago, it was not possible for us to have that kind of collaboration.
Yeah.
Now, these same people with these tools, when they come into the communities, for instance, I've been in a place where I was having an issue with a concept. I went to DevCon and say, there's a channel called Belief. It's like I'm 5, and I'm like, I need help on this. Everybody was pointing out their suggestion on that.
Yeah.
That's for DevCon.
Definitely.
Now, imagine that we have an MOT. Sometimes in our WhatsApp group MOT, somebody posted a question about, something in his workplace. I was surprised. People were giving their own solutions because they've used the tool. They've been in that similar situation. That's the beauty of growth.
Yeah.
That you have a community where people can say, I have an issue in QA, and I'll run that and say, just like those days when I said everything called Stack Overflow was everything. If I ever need help, just go to Stack Overflow.
You find
Somebody
someone
somewhere must
has
have
solved
something
it.
similar.
yeah.
So we want our QA, and that's the growth we're having here. We are seeing that, and the future is bright, that people are able to use tools that you're not the first to use it. And if you ever have challenges, you can always say, I know where to run to and ask these questions.
Right.
That's the growth I'm talking about. That's the future I'm looking at. That we can look out for something, and we know that there's somebody in Ghana here that has experienced such thing, and is in QA. So we are so proud that we are seeing that happen. We have very young, vibrant, gifted, talented young engineers here who are doing great things amazingly, and that's why I'm so much impressed with the guy in Legon that did the AI stuff for the tuberculosis.
Yeah.
Great, our names are there because it's a future. It's a future we're having here. The young guys can say, I have a question in QA. What do I need to do? Somebody's answering the question for you because they have been there before. And that way the growth keeps on increasing. People are getting into the system, we are growing. And in the next few years, from now, the next few years, when we begin to tell our stories, we will always have this moment of doubling out our numbers. So the only thing is that we tell our stories, but the truth is, we are growing. Our future is really, really bright there when it comes to QA in Ghana.
Fantastic. Thank you guys very much for coming, Ikenna and Korkor. We are so glad, taking us through the real state of software testing in Ghana. Thank you guys for watching as well. This has been a Building Bytes episode. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. This podcast is proudly brought to you with production support from Habitat Academy. And we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
Thank you.